Okay, so now you're ready to learn the Git setup and do the workflow. So you'll hear me say this, so get used to this term Git workflow, okay? Because it is just what we do in this class. We do work locally, we complete the Git workflow, we then push that code. You'll learn all these commands in this video to GitHub, okay? But before we do that, we just need to do some basic Git setup so that you don't run into any errors when you go to do the workflow. So this really, and this is one time. You only have to do this part, not the flow, but these three commands one time. Okay. And you do them at the command line. So I'm going to come down here to VS. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to select copy all the way up to there. Okay. There we go. So now I'm going to go to VS Code. This is where I left off on the last video. I'm going to go ahead and clear but that and terminal just so that you don't see anything else on there and it doesn't get confusing. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to paste that command and I'm going to use my arrow key. And when I do that, then I can just type. And I think as I was looking at this today, I'm like, does that want the actual username? Anyway, I think that was it. I'll know in a minute. Okay, so now grab the email, right? So now we're gonna, and by the way, you could, and this is kind of fun, you can actually up arrow here, backspace, and just type the thing that's different, right? Now in this case, I don't think you need quotes. Yeah, then here you just need, Gmail. Okay. So that up arrow is kind of nice because then you can just repeat the last command. That's something you want to learn as well, but you could have copied and pasted it. Now, if you get these two done, and I'm going to up arrow again this time. So instead of this, I'm going to do the last command, which is list. Cool. Okay, so that's this last command right here, okay? And this just lists to see that you have these things installed and ready to go and it does not install, these are configuration settings that you need in order to do the Git workflow, okay? Cool. All right, so now we're at the place. Again, you should see, we'll see. I think this one should be fine, but in case we run into it, we might have to come back. But I'm going to go ahead and clear. Okay, so now that one-time thing, this is the thing you do over and over again when you're working in this class. And this would now depend on if you're working in public or you're working in the private repo. Okay, so the assignment I'm setting you up to do, which is the next assignment, let me just quickly go look. I actually need to, yeah, you're going to end up taking a print screen. So because this is going to be shared with everyone, this is where you would use your public. Okay. Now, you can just click into here. Now, I have some files you may or may not have in here. And I accidentally created a lecture, but I think you should have pages because I had you do that last time. And you should have your day in there somewhere. Okay. But one thing I want to show you is that, and this can kind of save you some headache later, but it's just good to know either way is that when you're working in one or the other repos, if you don't want to have to change at the command line your current working directory, all you'd have to do is open this folder directly. So I could do File, Open Folder, and now I could double click here, and I could double click here, and then just say, actually, go back there. Click once on Public and say Select Folder, and then what would happen is that would become what we call our root for the work that we're doing. Now, it's not really the root totally, and the root is something you'll learn as you learn more web development. But what this does is it opens that. And now, if I come into my terminal, okay, here, that becomes my current working directory. Okay, my PWD. Now I can change my PWD, and that's something I want to actually teach you how to do. But I also wanted to show you because this can often be very helpful, especially when we start working in Bootstrap, and especially when we start working with your templates. Okay, but for now, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to recent, and I'm going to open up that base directory. Okay, because I want to show you the other way that if you just liked having these folders open for at least this first part of the class, you can do almost the identical thing in this sense, change your current working directory. Now you might be wondering, Rio, why do you want to know, why do you want me to know about the current directory? Because when you start doing these commands that I'm about to teach you, this Git workflow, being in the right directory is key. Okay. All right. So I'm in pub, right? I'm in and we did pages last time. So actually, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead, come into here, right? This we didn't really do anything. So let's actually add something here. Okay. So let's add a H2. And I'm going to say from my local system. Now you can add whatever you want. You could add it to H1s. I don't care. Just somewhere on the page have, right, this is from my local system. Okay. And I did a H2. We'll learn more about headings starting soon, but don't worry about that. Now, at this point, if you've noticed, there's an M now beside the index file on the other side. And that means it's modified. But what that also means, and this is something you start learning, is that Git locally, remember your Git dash dash version, you don't have to do that command. I just want to show you now, is tracking watching the code that you're doing, and it's going to keep track of that for you. And this is a really important thing when you're writing software or building websites. Now I'm going to do a clear real quick. Okay, because the first command that you learn is called git status. Okay, so here I am, and if I was to type right now that command, it would give me an error, and I would think, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. And so just take a breath. You do know how to do this because I'm going to show you. But the reason you're getting that error in this case is because the current working directory is above it, and it doesn't have a repo. Remember, these two folders, even though they look like regular file folders in your local system, are repos. They represent repos out on GitHub. So Git's saying, hey, that's not a repo. And so all you have to do here is you could do cd change directory. And now I'm going to change into my pub, okay, dash pub. Hit enter. Oh, see, oh, that helps when you do see. And by the way, this is another cool thing. If I do Rio space, then it will actually look at my current directory and figure out how to help me. And if I do that, it'll say, hey, I see Rio, and now you have to finish the rest of this because I don't know which of these two you want. So I could type PUB. I could do that. And then that changes my current working directory. Okay, so now PWD is that directory. This is just good stuff to learn. Some people think, I want to use the graphical using of Git. No, you don't. You want to learn this because, trust me, it's really helpful to learn. Now that I have that, I'm going to type Git status. Now I get a different message. This message says, hey, you have changes, right? Changes not staged for commit. But what if I created another file in here, right? So let's just do that in here. Let's actually create another file, and let's call this one, oh, again, I love my keyboard here. Pages, in here, new file. I'm going to call it new page. Oh, really creative.html. Okay. Now notice how that one has got a U and it's green. So what that is because we had created this index out on GitHub and version controlled it with the commits out on GitHub. It already is knows the file and is just keeping track of changes. But this file is a new file. It's like, I don't know anything about this file. As a matter of fact, now if we were to do git status, it would say we have two things, okay? We have a changes not staged. That's the index file. And then we have untracked files. Okay. So that's great. It's actually telling us, I'm watching what you're doing. And now I just want you to know you've done some changes. You haven't committed them. Okay. So now all we've done is we've played in the git status. Okay, so now we're going to actually add files. Okay, so when we stage changes, right, to our local system, we're saying, hey, here's some changes I want you to add into the database, so to speak. And database is just the place at which it stores the changes that we're doing. And then we would commit them. Okay. And I've given you here, and I should have made this simple and just said this one, but it is good to understand that, and it even tells you, look at what Git's telling you here. And this is why I say slow down and read Git messages, because they often are just very good. And it's saying I could do a Git add and then the file name, which is cool. I could do Git add new page, or sorry, Git add, and would be for this one, the stages would be the index. But it's saying the same thing for the untracked. Okay. Now it is giving me other options as well in here. If I wanted to restore, is the discard changes if I wanted to go back, which generally you don't. That can get confusing depending on how many commits you have. But what this tells me is if I want to both start tracking this file and update or stage the changes for this file, then I can do that with one command. Okay, so I could do two commands, but I like to be efficient, so I could just do git add star. Now you can also do, I think, dot, but stars is a wild card, and it says, hey, anything that you have either untracked or just you have changes, go ahead and stage them. So stage them is just one of the first step along the train, is to stage them. So now when I do git status, cool, I have a new message. And right, yeah, so this is staged. And so it still looks different, but they both, as a matter of fact, you can even see it here. One's modified and one's a new file, and it tells you which is which. So again, really great to stop and read these messages. So you could have done git add in the file name, but I've shown you how to do a wildcard here. And this $ is actually the command line, so hopefully that doesn't throw you off. So now we're actually ready to commit these. Like we're ready to say, yes, commit this into your local system. Now I could keep going, right? Because I've done that commit. Like as an example, one of the things you'll start, and you saw me do this last week, is I gave you specific commits that you needed to do. So you could do all the commits I require, right? Commit, 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 right? And then you would do the push. But you need to do this stage that I'm about to show you, okay? Which is a git commit. Okay, so remember on GitHub when it had the green button where you commit, this is the equivalent on the local system. So git commit, as a matter of fact, I'm going to clear my terminal so you can see this. Now this one commit is going to be for both of the changes to the index and the new page. Okay, so I'm going to do git commit space -m space, no space between the dash and the m, open quote. Try not to accidentally hit enter here, because it'll just throw it into a kind of a loop and you'll end up having to kill it to get back. So this would be, right, and I'm going to, here's your commit, learning about Git workflow. Okay, and then end quote. So git space commit -m open quote, learning about Git workflow, end quote. So when you do that, you're going to see changes over here now. Okay, so now your system, and if you did this git status again, you're going to see this. Hey, there's nothing to commit. You're clean, meaning you have tracked all the changes that you've done. Okay, now you've tracked them locally, and that's why this last step, git push, is so important, because what that does, and I want to show you this, I'm going to go back to Git, and this is where you really want to connect the dots here. Okay, so in the pub, which we're working on right now, okay, so right now if I went into pages, those changes I've done are not out on GitHub. They're only on the local system. They're only here. And that's because I need to do the last step. So git push. Now, I have seen when students do this, they may get an error and it'll actually give them a suggestion. It wants the origin in the I can't remember, upstream or something like that. And generally I think that means there just hasn't been something set up correctly. But in general, and let me just clear here again, you should be able to, and you don't have to do the git push until you're actually completely ready to submit assignments. So you don't have to like do this every time you make changes or every time you make commits. Okay. So I'm going to do git push. Now, here's where it's actually verifying you're authenticated, and actually not for pub, but the idea is it's going out and it's pushing those changes. Okay. So now if I come back to my pages out on here, if I refresh, then I see I have that new page. I have that index, that, and I can go into my index and see that, oh yeah, I have that from my local system, which is awesome, right? So if you see that, and now we didn't connect the pages, but you could actually do /new. Now there's not going to be anything on that page, so that might not be, but you see it's there, which is awesome. And the other thing, you can come to pages and you can do get history, click on history, and you can see that last commit that you did. In addition, you can come in here and it'll actually show you the updates that were done there. And it's like I created a new file and here's the modifications. Okay, I hope that helps. Next, we'll actually do our first assignment, but knowing this process this is what you're going to do all the time in this class. So I spent a little more time talking about it here. Hope it helped.